Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main man, Martin. We might have Sam joining us as well. We're also broadcasting live on X again. It was such a great show last week. We had to do it again. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We are smashing through 4,000 subscribers. I think we're above 4,100 now. So yeah, keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button. If you're on X, make sure you drop us a follow if you haven't already, and hit the like on X and hit the retweet button just to help spread the word of the channel. As the title suggests, this is a bit of a talk around transfers, bit of a talk around Villa's financial situation. So get involved in the comments. As I've titled it, can we go big or do we need to cash out? So we'll be getting into all of that. We'll also talk some Euro chat as well. Yeah, Martin, from a neutral perspective, we'll get into that. We'll get into
Mm.
that. But yeah,
Wait, the
make sure you get your
Euros.
comments in.
We're on about the
Yes,
Euros.
the Euros,
I thought we were on
mate.
about the EU. I thought we were on
Yeah,
about the
no, we know.
EU.
I don't know if we're going back into that yet. I don't know if we're going
Mm.
back into that yet. But yeah, we'll get into all of that as well. So yeah, get your comments in, get your questions in, etc., etc. So Martin, as first of all, how are you doing?
Good. Feeling a year older today. I'm officially 28
Oh
years of age. So
yes,
I
yes,
I'm,
yes,
I've
yes.
I'm starting to get a little bit of grays now. So I'm a year older, but none the wiser. They say.
Happy birthday to you, mate. Happy birthday.
Cheers.
28 years young. Oh, how I wish I was 28 again. I tell you what, mate. I tell you what. But yeah,
Mm.
hope you've had a great day. What have you had anything good, or are you waiting for that new Aston Villa kit that Stephen is desperate for a sign of? Have you got that on order yet?
I'm like a skeleton waiting for the thing at this minute.
I saw your tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally you're there like that. And I remember in the Titanic in the end of it, and your one's just like, it's been 84 years. Literally, that's what it's like waiting for the Aston Villa home kit this season at this minute. We always seem to be the last ones to release it.
I know, mate. I know. Well, I obviously live in Newcastle, as everyone knows, and theirs was released on Friday. So there was a frenzy of activity at the club shop. I think they've got a temporary shop at the moment. They're building one, as are Aston Villa at the minute.
Oh,
So yeah, but there was queues the night before. There was queues. The queues growing an hour or two before the kit was released, and yeah, they've done link ups with designers. They've done brought retro Adidas stuff out. So if ours is anything like that, if the kit is anything like that in terms of the launch and what other stuff's available, then I
mm.
think people's bank balances are certainly going to be a lot less strong, a lot less full as as the kits
Yeah,
are released.
I think mine's gonna struggle just a little bit. My wallet's gonna look at me like, stop, I'm already dead. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, we might talk kits. We might maybe leave that to the fans forum, but we'll
Yeah.
see about that. So my question was, are we going to go big or do we need to cash out? So I'll put that question to you because the talk from various news outlets, whether you choose to believe them or not,
Mm.
to varying degrees, is that Aston Villa need to sell in some way, shape, or form to go along with the regulations of the profit and sustainability, all that kind of stuff. We need to sell. Some are saying there's a deadline of June the 30th. Some are saying we need to skate close to the line. Some are saying we're okay, but we need to just box clever. What are your thoughts on it in terms of that, first of all? Are we going to have to be really careful? Are we going to have to really sell, like i.e. cash out? And we'll talk about some of those players.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're relatively okay. Like, don't get me wrong, I am slightly concerned as well with the PSR issues surrounding the club at the moment because of the history of past clubs such as Forest and Everton who have been punished for it. So you don't want to fall into that predicament. And I seen a tweet saying that some would rather take the 4 to 6 point hit. Me personally, I wouldn't, because then you're only playing catch up, and those 4 or 6 points could be a huge difference between, finishing fourth to third or fourth to fifth. It makes a huge difference in terms of the season. But I think personally myself, I think we're relatively okay. Do I believe we need to sell a few just to keep our books balanced? Yes, I do. Because at the same time, you don't want to just go and splash the cash and then all
No
of a
pun
sudden you're in a
intended.
predicament. Yeah, no pun intended. All of a sudden you have to then next season, now you have to sell two or three big players in order to comply with these rules. And I don't want to be in that predicament next season. If we have to sell a few, not necessarily a big player, like if you sell some that are at a cost of around that 50 million to 60 million pound mark, which is being mentioned at this minute in all the journalists' stories at this moment in time, then I'd sell those instead of a big player like Luiz. Because I've had a look at it throughout the week when you think about players like Diego Carlos, Luca Digne, Alex Moreno, Matty Cash, obviously being mentioned, like a lot of players, Cameron Archer, players that are kind of worth around 15 to 16 million, maybe just slightly a bit more in terms of where they play. Then you can probably get your 50 to 60 million, and then your first team squad isn't really hampered too much in terms of quality. And then after that, you can go to the incumbents and go, right, this is what we can do with it now after June 30th, because obviously it's in a 3-year cycle. Then we go big after that. So we can go big and cash out at the same time, really. No pun intended, of course. But I'd say between now to the 30th of June, I think we box clever and selling few here and there, and then after June 30th, that's when we go. That's when we go big.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because one hand, you've got that situation where we've qualified for the Champions League.
Yeah,
You've got an excitement, you've got an anticipation for the season, and then on the other hand, you've got this kind of situation where we are in a bit of a catch-22 where we potentially do need to sell someone, and depending on who that player is or players are, would in a sense then determine how much money we've got to spend moving forward. What I mean by
mm,
that is, if you sell Jacob Ramsey, let's say, for argument's sake, for 40 to 50 million, I
yeah,
think had he had a great season this season, then it would either be out of the question or it would be about 70, 80 million, but he hasn't had a great season for injury. But let's say it's 40 million
yeah,
ish. You can then, that's like pure profit, and you can then offset that for another 3 years. If you sell Douglas Luiz for 70, 80 million, yes, you could probably offset quite a bit of that because it's a fair bit of profit. But if you sell Matty Cash, yes, you're making a bit of profit, but then you've probably got to sell another two or three players
yeah,
to offset the same amount of money that you would if you sold Ramsey. Do you see what I'm saying? So it is extremely confusing and extremely difficult then to plan, okay, well, who can we buy based on who we might sell?
yeah. That's true. But at the same time, I think if I can ask this question here, would Cameron Archer be considered pure profit again because we only got him back on a buyback clause because Sheffield United were relegated? So obviously, with him being up probably up for the list again, which is the talks at this minute, would he be considered pure profit again because he's from our academy?
Who knows?
So
Who
is that
knows?
like a loophole, even though he was a Sheffield United player last season and he's come back to us based on a buyback clause because Sheffield United were
Have we
relegated?
have we had to buy him back for the same money that we sold him?
No, I think we bought him back for half the money we sold him for. I think that was the agreement. If they were relegated, we buy him back for half the money. But if they stayed up, we didn't have to buy him back, but
Yeah,
we had the
yeah,
first
yeah,
option
yeah.
to pay the release clause, which I think at that time was around 30 million pounds. If Sheffield United stayed up, but they didn't. So I think we got him back for half the money that we got from Sheffield United. So I don't know what way that works out. Would it be, well, obviously for starters, it's obviously say close enough to a 20 million pound profit we got on Archer because we sold them for so much, got half of back. So we didn't actually we made money on him by getting rid of him and getting him back. But would he be considered another academy pure profit because he came through us? I don't know.
Well, look, Kevin's summed it up here. The whole PSR system is a farce, and we know that lawyers, lawyers, agents, club officials will be looking at accountants will be looking at how they can move around loopholes and everything like that. I mean, Rachel said there, it's all about buyers. JJ, Dougie have lots of interest, others don't, so we don't get money for them, and that's the problem. So
Mm,
we will talk in a second about who might go. Rub says, I don't think he would be in terms of Archer. We buy him back for X profit is only if we sell above X.
Okay.
So yeah, again, it's
You're still probably going to make a profit on him because he's a Premier League player.
yeah, yeah. As it said, it depends what the demand is like and who's going to
Yeah.
come in for him, and that's one of the things. Now, a couple of players that are in demand, and as the title suggested, cash out. We're seeing more and more links to AC Milan. Now, the Italian clubs, as far as I've heard, don't have a huge amount of money to spend. Obviously, all these clubs across Europe are boxing clever, are trying to be cagey with how much money they have or haven't got. Villa are valuing him at around about the 25 to 30 million pounds mark, give or take. They're looking at 20 to 25 million euros. So, first of all, how do you see that panning out? And is that a deal that you would be tempted to make?
Yeah, I probably would. I'd be slightly tempted to make that deal. But again, popularity or contrary to popular belief, I would keep him personally myself as a great backup. But with these issues that are surrounding the club at the minute, I think I would sell him just for the fact that it's just to keep us off that bracket of getting a points deduction. And if obviously we value him at 20 to 30 million pounds, and of course they want to offer 20 to 25 million euros, which I think is about 18 to 22 million pounds. So it's obviously just 7 or 8 million shy of what we're looking for. So I think a deal can be reached there. I think if we can get to an area to bring them to about 24.5 million pounds, I think I'd take it. And I think I know somebody who would pay for his taxi for absolutely nothing.
He should be
With,
joining us. I don't know where he is. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes. I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to collect them and bring them to the airport. But I would absolutely take this deal if agreement can be reached, because you're going to make a profit on Matty Cash, because I believe we signed him for 12 million pounds with 3 million
Mm-hmm.
pounds plus add-ons. So whether they were paid off or not, I have no idea. And if someone can say that to me, please do. I do think that this is a deal worth taking, in my opinion. And if we don't take it, then obviously we're going to have to sell big with one player. But if we sell a cash, then we can sell 2 or 3 more to get a profit somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm tempted to agree with you. There's enough talk out there about right backs that we might be looking at. Denzel Dumfries would be an amazing one. I don't think that is necessarily as realistic as we maybe would like it
Yeah,
to be, but he would be a really good option. And I might get Gareth to do a little bit of a deeper dive into his background. We've been linked with numerous other ones of centre halves that can play right back. Todibo has been the latest one, centre half that can play on that right hand side. We've got Nedeljkovic coming in. We don't know specifically how good or how, whether he's going to really push for the first team.
yeah,
But like you say, if it's a price of 25, 30 million for Matty Cash, I think you'd be silly not to take that value at what it is at the moment. And you know what? I was thinking to myself, he was interviewed the other week at a golf day,
yeah. I've
and
seen that one.
and he sounded very. He's a really nice guy. The way he talks, he really comes across well. And he was asked the question about next season, how excited he was, and just from his answer, I felt like he wasn't as like hyped as I maybe anticipated him to be. So whether we know that players, agents, and everything like that know the situations that's happening before things have been announced to the general public, and I just wondered whether there was a little bit in there that maybe he could be looking at. Maybe there are definitely negotiations going on, and now we've heard potentially AC Milan are negotiating for a number of players, and Matty Cash is on that list. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he knew something that we didn't quite know, and he was a little bit playing his cards close
Mm,
to his chest.
yeah. Well, rumor has it, obviously, that apparently one of the AC Milan directors went to London to talk about Matty Cash to meet up with Aston Villa, and of course with Spurs about Emerson Royale. So whatever one works out to be the best deal, of course, is where they're going to go. But I'm with you on that one. With the way he was answering, it kind of feels like Matty Cash is almost guaranteed now to play Champions League because of the interest from AC Milan, and of course he's an Aston Villa player. So when he was asked the question, "Oh, Real Madrid, definitely," and it just didn't seem like a jumpy Real Madrid. Definitely, it kind of felt like a confident Real Madrid. Definitely, so it kind of feels like that he's not bothered by the move, but he's obviously excited just to play Champions League, and he obviously knows he's going to get it next season, regardless of whether that's with Villa or AC Milan. So I think he's confident in the fact that he's playing Champions League football
Yeah,
next season,
yeah,
regardless of
yeah,
who it's with.
yeah.
So I think I'm with you on that one, because when I was reading between the lines of his body language and everything else, of course he's confident. Like, the player has every right to be confident, like he's
And
got a
happy, of course. Yeah,
and of
yeah,
course he's happy.
yeah.
So he's buzzing. He's buzzing to be playing Champions League football. So whether that's with us or AC Milan, it makes no odds. And of course, he used to work in River Island, so he's going to fit right in Milan Fashion Week. He's going to fit right in, I think. I just
I
absolutely
think
know
they'll
it.
be a bit more expensive
The
clothes
long
at
hair,
River Island, to
the,
be fair.
the long slick black hair, the
Oh, he'd be
glasses.
in his absolute element in
He'd
Milan.
be
He
sitting
would
there like
be.
this, looking at the models and just like
Yeah.
looking away. You know the way they look away, as if like they don't really care about the show and everything. So they're doing this. He'd be doing all
He'll
that.
have that fishnet shirt on constantly, won't he? He'll just get loads of different
Oh,
colours of that.
if you ever see Matty cashing that, the trolls and the memes for him are going to be unbearable.
Yeah. No, I know. Guys, we have almost 80-ish watching on YouTube, which is great. Loads watching on X, which is just even better. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. But if you're on YouTube, please hit that like button. We're at 25 likes, so I really want to get to 50 on the show tonight at least, and then we can aim for 100 by the end of the show. So please do smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. We've gone over 4,100 subscribers in the last week or so, which is amazing. We want to hit 5K as soon as we can. So like, subscribe. Someone actually messaged us the other day saying that he's only just come across our channel. He's 50 odd years supporting Aston Villa. Really loves our content, and it really does make a difference, you liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps other people see it. So please do smash the like and hit the subscribe button. So another player, and I think we're going to talk about him until it's
Yeah,
decided. Now, news
yeah.
I've had, and I don't know, again, take it with a pinch of salt here, there, or whatever, that the Douglas Luiz situation needs to be sorted out as ASAP. We know the transfer window opens on Friday. Villa want a kind of a decision on this as soon as possible. Now, Luiz is potentially going to sign either a new deal or he's going to move. Now, whether he moves, then we're looking at players in exchange and the finance, because I think Juventus need to do that. What are your thoughts on this? I know we covered this last week as well, but what are your thoughts on the Douglas Luiz situation?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one, and I think it's kind of right from the club to say that, look, if we don't have a decision by then, he's going to sign a new deal, and that's probably in an agreement with himself as well, that if there is no decision between two clubs, they can come to an agreement, the valuation of the price for the player, and of course what player they want in exchange for him, which is obviously the big thing now, and that rumor just doesn't seem to be going away. So it seems like that rumor is more fact than fiction. So I think if the clubs don't come to a decision and don't come to a suitable agreement for what's best for both parties, then Douglas Luiz will have no option but to sign a new deal with the club. And that probably raises his value. And if he does sign a new deal, and let's say someone else comes in after he signs a new deal, it could be the best of both worlds. And all of a sudden, his price goes up dramatically because he signed a new deal and he's longer at the club. If we take a look at the situation of Jack Grealish the year before he left, where he was going to go to Man United, nothing happened, so he signed a new deal, and then next season he went for £100 million because it was in his release clause. This could be the same again for Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a release clause, if
So
there is to be a new deal,
if
is
there
in
is to be a
place.
new deal, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if release clause whatsoever,
yeah,
because we've had this situation with Jack Grealish where we probably would have lost Grealish for about 50 to 60 at the time. But when nothing happened, he signed a new deal with a release clause of 100 million. Only a Champions League club could trigger that. This could be a similar situation with Luiz, where if it's, I'm not saying it's going to be 100 million, you never know with the price of midfielders these days. But it could be a case of something similar where a Champions League club can only trigger that release clause for Douglas Luiz. And I think that's something that Villa's been clever about, that at least then a player is going on to a club who, is playing at the highest level of football. And I'm not taking that away from Aston Villa, of course. We are probably going to be playing at the highest levels of football, maybe for the next 2 or 3 seasons, and hopefully many more.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And here this time, because someone mentioned it last time, this time touch wood, and we will be playing there for many years to come. But I think that Luiz, and I think Luiz hasn't really come out to say that he wants to leave or everything else, because I just seen a picture on Twitter that he was just chilling
Yeah,
there by Optimus Prime on
exactly.
Transformers.
He's
I don't think
enjoying
he's
it. Yeah,
bothered by
he's
what
enjoying
happened.
his holidays. It doesn't. The thing is, all this speculation doesn't hurt him, because he's
No.
either going to be in a really good position with a pay rise and a new contract, or he's going to go to another club with
Yeah.
another big
Yeah.
contract and
Yeah.
in
Supposedly he
Champions League
wants.
football. So he
Yes.
doesn't. He's not. He's just
Yeah.
sitting chilling.
Yeah. Supposedly he wants something close to what Yuri Tillemans is getting, which he probably has every right to ask for that. He's been there for such a long time. He's been there from when we were battling relegation to mid-table to Conference League and now Champions League football. He has every right to ask that. So he feels like that's what he's worth to the club because he's been there for so long. And I would be in agreement. But at the same time, when it comes to it, if he is to be sold for PS or reasons and the club can come to agreement, I'll be the first one to say best of luck.
Yeah. A couple of people have mentioned in the chat about Arsenal as well. So Rachel said, I would rather Dougie move to Juve than to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Michael saying if Doug goes to Arsenal, they will win the league.
No.
Can you see an English side coming in for him at all? A Liverpool even, a Man United even. Like, could you see that happening?
Probably not
A Man City coming back in for him?
maybe a Man City probably is the only one I can think about because they seem to get away with everything at this minute. But I think with everyone else, I don't think I see any English club going for him, and that's not because he doesn't get interest from English club. He obviously does, and Arsenal are obviously the ones who are the biggest admirers of him. But I would just think that with the PSR issues going on in the Premier League, and we've seen the punishment some clubs have get, I think clubs are probably looking outside of the Premier League, trying to get cheaper deals, sell on values. That could be happening for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Lewis says they're selling him. He can be replaced. I mean, what's your
Absolutely. I
talk
agree
on
with
that?
him.
Yeah, yeah,
I 100% agree with him because when we look at it, again, I'm going to bring it back to Grealish. When Grealish was sold, everyone thought we couldn't replace Grealish. And now look where we are. Now, of course, I put out a tweet which got a hot debate about whether we take him back or not. I still take him back personally. I still think he walks into this team regardless of who's there. But a lot of people said, oh, we can't replace Grealish. We can't do this. We can't do that. And look what we've done. We bought 2 or 3 players. Yes, it's taken them a while to adapt because they're playing in the new leagues and everything else. But look at the season we've had. And that was without Grealish. Now, of course, if we still had Grealish, we wouldn't have them players and we probably wouldn't be in that position. But if you sell a Douglas Luiz, he is 100% more replaceable than Grealish. If we can replace Grealish, Douglas Luiz can 100% be replaced.
yeah.
And could that be with someone who's already in the door? Maybe. Or is that going to be with someone completely different?
Yeah, no, I think the Douglas Luiz that was there for the first 4, 5, 6 months of the season, he would be much harder to replace. The Douglas Luiz that we saw for the last couple of months of the season, I think there was an argument as to say he probably shouldn't have been playing at times. Like, had
Yeah.
Yuri Tielemans been fitter for more consistently,
Yeah, and of
that
course, other
midfield was
players,
better
yeah.
with Tielemans and McGinn. And I think you might have seen Luiz struggle to get his place in the team. So yeah, sometimes it depends on what Dougie you've got, but I do think that Luiz at the start of the season was unbelievable. But I agree with you. If you can get a good sum of money for him, then I think he's the one for me to sell, and then bring in other players who can maybe push on, or I guess broaden that squad. And I think
Mm.
that's the thing. Yeah, Lewis is correct. So yeah, and then in terms of that, let's talk some incomings, and we'll talk a couple more outgoings in a second.
Yeah.
But on the Luiz thing, if it is to be Juve, there's now talk of Chiesa potentially being the one that we're gonna press for.
Mm.
There's also, is it Sule that we're potentially interested in as well?
Yeah.
And obviously the McKennie situation. I think the McKennie situation is more Juventus looking to offload him as opposed to us being actually really
Yeah.
interested in him.
I'm in
I
agreement
think
with
we're
you on that
probably
one,
more
yeah.
interested in Sule and potentially Chiesa again. Though I think they're hawking Chiesa out because they're linking him with every club in the, like Liverpool. I've seen linked, West Ham I've seen linked, I've seen Manchester United linked, Chelsea linked. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of Juve putting names out there and almost just saying, okay, we'll have him, or you can have him if you want. So it's difficult to know exactly what to believe. But yeah, would you be interested in players that Juve have potentially got if it is to be Chiesa? Or I know we talked McKennie the other day. If he was linked in with one or two other midfielders, would that be potentially of interest, or would you be just looking for good sum of money?
I think one, I actually be looking for a bit of both. One, a good sum of money, and of course, a suitable player for us to be able to put into a system that Unai Emery is working at. If with Chiesa, who can play on that left side, I know we've got Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey probably to come back, but them players are well adaptable. They can play in behind the striker, they can play on the right. Same with Chiesa, you can play anywhere across from four. So we've got players that are adaptable and can play different positions. With Sole, I think it's been understood that Juventus, under no circumstance, are not getting rid of him. They don't want to
Right.
get rid of him. They're big fans of him. But of course, we're interested in him. So it's obviously at a negotiation stage at this minute. But when we think about it, if Juventus have come to us and said, oh, we'll give you this and we'll give you that player, we're in a very strong position to say, no, we want this much and that player. Like say, for example, they're willing to offer us, which I think at this minute talk is what, 30 million euros plus McKennie, which is about 55 million euros worth.
Yeah, and I think we're pushing for like 45 million and whoever. I
Yeah.
think maybe
And
Chiesa.
of course, but we're in every right to ask that, because if you look at the value of Douglas Luiz, we're apparently valuing him at 70 million pounds. That's apparently the value. So when you want 45 million, and let's say, for argument's sake, we go and get Chiesa, who apparently is available for 20 to 25 million because of new contracts, that he's not going to get something that he wants, then there's your 70 million. And then the two clubs, and if they can come to an agreement with that, I think that's a great deal, in my opinion. It really would be. It'd be a better deal than 30 million in McKennie. Because I think just what you touched on with Juventus, they want to kind of get rid of McKennie more than what we want him. And of course, we've been admirers for many years, and maybe Juventus are toying with that fact and flirting with it a little bit. But now we're in the position to say, right, we don't really need McKennie. And that's not to take it away from McKennie, but we don't really need him when we look at our midfield options next season with Emi Buendia, who's going to come back. Kamara will come back at some stage next season. Maybe not the very beginning, but he will be back. You've then got Tielemans. You've then got John McGinn. You've now got Ross Barkley. So there's 5 centre midfielders. And now, of course,
we talked about this the other night, didn't we?
Yeah, and you're right. And it's absolutely in the depth. But then when we probably will need somebody, but do we need a McKennie? No, because we've got maybe 2 or 3 players in Barkley, Tielemans, Kamara. No, sorry, Barkley, Tielemans, Kamara, who can play them sort of deeper roles and 8 roles. So it's not really going to be an area that we should be looking at, because it probably disrupts things if you have 4 players there. So then you have to look at getting rid of somebody there again. So maybe we would need a wide player or someone to play in behind the striker. So therefore, I would be pushing more for Chiesa rather than McKennie.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question in a bit of you and the watchers and viewers in terms of whether how we wheel and deal this, and whether we actually need any significant signings. But I'll leave that in a second, because I do want to talk a little bit about other outgoings and potential strategies. So we've got John Duran. This is around young players. So there's the question mark over John Duran. We've just mentioned Jacob Ramsey a little bit as well. So there's that, and then there's obviously Cameron Archer. So is there a case for looking at getting rid of some of the younger players, i.e., as I've just said there, Duran, Ramsey, and or Archer, to generate the funds?
Yeah, I think Ramsey be the one to probably be looking at, because it's going to be pure profit regardless, whatever you sell
And
them
sorry,
for.
then you've got like the Louis Barrys, the Irigbonhams,
Eric Bonham.
those players as well.
Maybe I don't see Eric Bonham going. I think Emery likes him because he obviously kept him around last season. Probably didn't get as much game time as he would have liked. But, that could just be setting him up for the season. We never know. But with Ramsey, it's a hard sacrifice, and I think the club probably don't want to do it, and I know Ramsey doesn't want to do it. But if push comes to shove and you need to really do it for PSO, Ramsey's probably going to be the go-to sacrifice. And it's nothing against Ramsey whatsoever, but if the club has to do what's best for the club, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, Jacob Ramsey is just a number at Aston Villa, regardless of whether he's one of our own, regardless of whether it's a boyhood player playing for Aston Villa, which we all love to see. But at the end of the day, he's the number. He's an asset. There's a price on him. It doesn't matter whether he's as untouchable or not. Every single player has a price. It doesn't matter who you are. Every single player has got a price. With Duran, I can actually see us making a good bit of profit on Duran because now he's played a few Premier League games. He's got himself a good few goals as well as in Europe. So I can definitely see him making a profit because I think we got him for like 18 million if I'm correct. So I can see us probably making a 7 to 10 million pound profit on him. Ramsey probably a good 40 million to 50 million pounds. Archer, again, I asked that question: would he be considered pure profit again because of what he's an academy player and what we brought back? But he'd be a profit regardless because we've got him back for half the price we sold him for. So it's going to be with them three. If you actually sold them three at a combined price, well, obviously, if you sell Ramsey anyway, you're going to be okay. But if you sold them three just alone and then wait until after June 30th, then you can go big and you can still keep the likes of Luiz, you can still keep the likes of Matty Cash, but you probably would sell Cash in terms if you're looking for one or two better because there's been talks about either side of the fullback they want to improve. So if you sold Archer, Duran, and Ramsey alone, and that was it, you're sitting in a very comfortable position, and then just don't do anything until after June 30th. Of course, put verbal agreements in place and everything else, and then make the transfer official after the 30th of June, which for paperwork and everything else. Lawyers are
Oh
going to be
yeah,
clever about
accounting.
this.
Yeah.
Lawyers are going to be
Oh
clever
yeah,
about this.
yeah, of
It's just
course.
having verbal agreements in place. Yeah, I'm going to join Aston Villa, and then lawyers can just come around July 1st. Here you go. It's
Yeah.
been done now. And then that just means that it covers everything else. There's going to be so many loopholes in a lot of transfers this year, not just with Aston Villa, but with every single club in the Premier
Yeah,
League because of
100%.
PSR.
Yeah. A few comments coming in. Hype Panda, thank you for joining us, mate. I've seen quite a few comments. I've tried to star as many as I can as well to go back to. I think Duran and Archer should go. To be honest, Archer not at the level we need, I'm afraid. And I just don't think Duran is happy playing second fiddle. Seems to have a bad attitude. Who else is in there? Rachel said Ramsey's linked to Liverpool for about 60 million. Games Done says, sad to say Archer would go. We should try to keep Ramsey and Duran. And Michael says, Richard, I'm in work and Tech has just said you sound like me. So I've got to say hello to Grant. So hello, Grant. If I sound like Michael, that's not too bad in my book, to be fair. I'm not sure if my singing voice does. I know Michael's trying to get me to sing this song
No, I
for
just
the
think it's more of an
foundation.
insult to Michael, though, Rich, that you sound like him.
Yeah, yeah. To be
That's
fair,
more of an
probably.
insult.
Probably. Yeah. Guys, make sure you smash the like button as well, please. We're gradually moving up, so please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new. Nearly 300 watching as well, which is amazing. So thank you for everyone's support. Smash the like button and hit the subscribe button and follow us on X as well. So this is the proposition that I had as well because I thought about this again today. I've been doing a lot of thinking, which is difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of we talk about sales, and I'm sure there's various strategies. The Emery and Monchi and Vidigani having all these meetings to discuss the various scenarios and stuff. Now, is there a we've done very well in the free transfer market. Tielemans, Kamara. We're looking at Barkley for a very cut price deal. Could it be conceivable to you, Martin, that we could sign someone? We could go through not selling anyone, not having to sell anyone, signing players on real cut price deals or free transfers. I've seen a lot of people talking about Wilfred Ndidi and the like.
Mm.
Could you envisage us just going for free transfer, cut price deal, selling nobody, and with the knowledge that Tyrone Mings, Emi Buendia, Boubacar Kamara are still to come back? Bearing in mind the squad finished fourth as it was, add those three players in, and then also then bringing in Barkley, 1 or 2 free transfers. If we can get Hermoso over the line, if we can get Ndidi potentially, get Iheanacho or some as a backup striker, could you see that situation occurring?
No, no,
Fair
I don't.
enough.
No, and it's not out of badness. I see what you're trying to do, and it's actually very clever. But if there's so much talk about us having to sell somebody, and if we don't, and you bring in players, then all of a sudden we're going to get deducted points, and that brings it back to the tweet of, excuse me, my apologies. That brings us back to the tweet of someone I said I'd rather see us take the 4 to 6 point hit, and I don't want that. It's because if you take a 4 to 6 point hit, and I'm going to play Kevin's card here, and let's say, for example, we're in a title race, and we had that 4 to 6 point hit, and let's say you lose the league with 1 point. Now, I'm not saying Aston Villa is going to win the league or anything like that. I'm just basically being Kevin Tyler for 2 seconds. But if in that you put yourself in that situation, those 4 to 6 points could have won us that league, or those 4 to 6 points could have got us that Champions League place, or it could have got us just into the top half or just European football, regardless of where it is. I don't want that. I really don't want that. And I know people could say that, oh, if we got the point deduction, we could still do this, we could still do that. That's all good and well, but you have to remember other clubs are going to get stronger too. Other clubs are going to sign players. Other clubs are going to go to obviously PSR issues and sell their players, of course, and get probably stronger players in. You have to look at Newcastle when they got injured at the start of the season. A lot of their players getting injured at the start of the season. They have to play catch up. I don't want to play catch up. I'd rather be in a position where we're on the steady line already, or the start line, sorry, already, and bang, we're on it from the get go, rather than being on the back foot. It's a case of, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and you don't want that. You'd rather be on the starting line, taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what you want. I get what you're trying to do, Rich, and I personally, myself, I just wouldn't agree with it whatsoever because of all this paper talk surrounding with trying to sell someone. If we sold somebody and went for all these 3 free transfers, yes, I'd 100% agree with you. But the fact that what you're saying that we don't have to sell anyone, I just don't see a wolf with that, and I could see us in a position of getting deducted points. Now I sound like George.
Well, he's in the chat, and
He's in
Rachel
the
said
chat, yeah.
there, we have to watch the revenue to wages percentages as this is the killer with the UEFA rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's the case, and we know with free transfers you end up paying more on wages. The revenue thing, I think this is the situation with the revenue is it's this year, isn't it? It's this coming year because the revenue is obviously going to really increase based on the Champions League that we have next season, which will really increase. So Newcastle are going to benefit from that a little bit this year because they've had the Champions League for last season, so their revenue will have increased.
Hmm.
But next season, because they haven't had Europe, it'll maybe come back to bite
But I
them a
think
little
we've
bit
hit. I
more
think
then.
we've hit a good bit of revenue this season. I think we've hit apparently £300 million in revenue, which is a record. Now, of
It's
course,
a
it's not
record,
enough.
but yeah, but your outgoings go up because you're paying bonuses, you're paying,
Yeah.
you're obviously you're bringing in better players who are going to command more wages than those better players that are coming in. Then the players that are currently in the squad who've got you to the
Hmm.
Champions League go, hang on a minute, I've just got you to the Champions League. You're bringing him in. I want the same money as
Oh,
him.
here
So
it's
yeah,
like Biggie Small says. Even though it was in a song, "More money, more problems."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
exactly like
yeah,
that. It doesn't matter how much you
yeah,
bring in, you're going to get more problems.
yeah. But yeah, it was just a potential scenario that I was thinking. Are Villa are Villa kind of looking at more careful signings, not necessarily looking potentially to sell anyone. Yes, they might sell one player, but not a fire sale. And then bring in free transfers in. And on the back of, we've had 2 players that have been out for the full season in
Yeah.
Mings and Buendia. And then we've had another player in Kamara who's been out for pretty much half the season. We've had Ramsey who's been out for pretty much half the season. We've had Morgan Rogers who was injured towards the end of the season. Everyone really forgot about him. I didn't even talk about him in terms of the forwards and midfielders last week when I was talking about players who can come in.
Well, he's going to
So,
Love Island apparently.
so, so it's we've got a hell of a squad of players that have been out of the team for significant periods of last season. That if they come back in, we're in a good position anyway.
Yeah. No, and I'd 100% agree with you. But I reckon if we go for these free transfers and we do sell one big player, I can see us going for one big player.
Mm.
I do think that. I think that'll just probably ease the fans' mind that, right, we sold one big player and we got these free transfers in, but the question mark will be, why didn't we sign a big player after June 30th? You know what I mean? So that way, if we do sell one big player, whether it's Ramsey, Cash, Luiz, then the question would be, are we going to get someone big now after June 30th? And I think that we should go for someone big after June 30th to put the fans' mind at ease that we're not sitting in a position of, all right, we got these three players and that's all good and well, but do they really improve the starting lineup? And
Yeah.
you want someone to come in that's going to improve the starting lineup for the Champions League. When we look at Newcastle that went to sign Tonali, they got one big player in, who, in my opinion, I think did improve their team, but just got a bit unlucky getting caught gambling. So it's gonna be an interesting summer, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if I've got. Let me just see what comments I've put as starred, because I think it's definitely, and I think this coming week is going to show. He's going to show like where we are with everything and what's going to happen. Potentially one or two players looking at actual official talks to come out of the club, and then we'll be able to see what that value is and what potentially we'll be able to do with that value. I mean, Sharik has put, the way it's going, I don't see us making any significant signings to improve the starting 11.
Fair.
Would you go along with that? Do you think it's going to be more about
It's a good,
depth as opposed
yeah.
to actual full-on starters?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point to make because when you consider how many players were out injured for so long, with Mings, Wendia, Kamara, Matty Cash out for a long period of time, Morgan Rogers was out towards the end, Ramsey was in and out of the team. So when you look at all those players and then they come back, who, in my opinion, everyone there still got a point to prove. He's at a good age. You know, Tyrone Mings will have a point to prove because he was out for pretty much all of last season.
Yeah.
And then you've Ramsey, who may want to have a point to prove, but if he goes because of PSR, it's going to be a bit unlucky. So there's going to be players there that are going to have points to prove. So it may be a case of it's going to be more about depth this summer because we've seen it with some teams where they go big in the summer and then the next year they're only really going for depth because they feel like they have their set 11, set 12, 13, of course, for the bench, first subs that come on. So it could be that case. And would I be disappointed with it? No, because we've had so many players that are out injured. And if you look at Boubacar Kamara, he's so pivotal to the way we play. We are so much better when he plays. But do I believe we probably need a backup to him? Yes, to be able to improve us. And I believe someone like Ross Barkley, who has verbally agreed to join us, will be able to do that role.
Yeah, agreed. So let's move off the transfer talk, because I love the speculation.
It's like
Don't
a
get me
hamster
wrong,
wheel. It's just going to keep going and
yeah,
going and going, isn't
I'll
it?
be doing more transfer talk shows as the week goes on. But yeah, you just, yeah, like you say, you just end up keep going around in circles. So I mean, as Rachel said there's so many rules to follow. It is exhausting.
Mm.
It is massively exhausting. I do think one thing that Stephen said, the can't sign any European player with the inflation from the Euros. Now that is going to give us a nice segue into the Euros. But before that, in
Is that?
terms
Are we
of
talking
that,
about the currency? Are we talking about the currency now? I'm
well,
just
yeah, it
curious.
definitely inflates the currency.
Yeah, I'm
But
just curious to know.
clubs are going to want to do their deals before this tournament. I mean, it's a risk, isn't it? Because you could be in for a player as a terrible Euros, and then you can negotiate the price, or you in for a player as a brilliant Euros, and then all of a sudden that price isn't what you originally planned. But yeah,
No.
you've got to be looking at getting whatever negotiation, whatever business done during that time as quickly as possible, because we've seen players signed off the back of Euros that haven't then gone on to do well, or players just value just rockets and everything like that, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's the same for World Cups as well. A lot of clubs just wait until after the World Cup and after the other competitions like Copa America and the Euros. And this is going to be the same again when we look at a lot of players that have left after the Euros. It was such a short time frame to do them transfers and get them negotiations. because of the fact that um it is gonna be a tight one, and especially for Villa and especially for other clubs.
Mm.
But I can see us hoping. I don't see us getting a player before the Euros. Of course, we've got Ross Barkley, but I don't see us getting another one
I
before
know
the
what you
Euros. I
mean.
think we're going to wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to Euros because I know you're a neutral in this perspective. You are gonna like to see the Aston Villa players doing well. We have
Mm.
two of them on the plane. Last time we spoke last week, last Tuesday, we were debating whether one or two would get on the plane, but both Ezri Konsa and Ollie Watkins are in the Euro 2024 squad. However, since then, England have had a friendly, and I've watched the first half of the Soccer Aid England versus the rest of the world game, and
Is
that
that
was
on today?
far more. Yeah, it's on tonight. Yeah, and that
Oh,
was
jeez.
far more interesting than the England Iceland game on Friday, which was absolutely
Oh.
horrendous.
That's why
Now
all
I'm not,
mums go to Iceland.
yeah. Now I'm not. I mean, unfortunately, that game. I know it's a friendly. I know it's a prep before the before the tournament, but unfortunately, that game doesn't put me in a particularly good frame of mind for how England are going to do in this Euro 2024.
Hmm.
From an outside perspective looking in, what do you see about how England are? Because to me, they just seem extremely disjointed.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for yourselves because I feel like, as of course an Irish football fan, I'd love to see my nation just be in the Euros. It's not a case of winning;
Yeah,
it's just being there for atmosphere and everything else. And we know what Irish fans can bring to for those places.
absolutely.
But with yourselves, there is an expectation to win things, and
Mm.
I'm gonna touch on this, and I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for it, but I hate when English football fans say it's coming home when it comes to the Europe because you've never won it.
Yeah, I
I
know.
like for the
It
World Cup,
is done
fair
with a
enough.
sense of
Say it,
irony, though, to be
yeah,
honest. But yeah,
say it for the World Cup. I am
yeah,
100% in agreement with you because you have won the World Cup. When it
yeah.
comes to the Euros, you have never won it. So how is something supposed to come home when it's never been there in the first place? But going back into topic now with England, your last game before the Euros, that was a game you just should have played as the strongest team and put down a statement. You
Well,
know, regardless of who it's
he
against.
tried to
Yeah,
play his strongest team pretty much, but that's the major worrying thing.
yeah,
Like apart
yeah.
from Bellingham,
Yeah, he played his strongest team, but at the same time, I think it's the manager. I think 100%. I think it's the manager. And now, of course, from my perspective, I love it that Garrett's your manager. Right, but I'm doing my best here to side with you all at this minute, and
no,
I'm gonna
I
say,
know,
and I'm
I
gonna
know, I
side
know.
with you now. You have to get rid of him. You have to get rid of him. Any top manager that has credentials of what he's won club level would win something with England. You
Mm.
look at that England team, and I'm going to point out the players: Bellingham, Rice, Foden, Saka, Harry Kane, John Stones, Trippier, Kyle Walker, Trent. The list goes on for that England team. It's unbelievable. Right, yous are blessed in every single department in that team. And I remember when Southgate said the team's going to be based on form. That team has never been based on form, in my opinion. When you look at the likes of Harry Maguire, was still getting in. Now, of course, he's been dismissed from this Euro. Some fans might be happy, some mightn't be. I feel like this Euros was very harsh on not to call up Ross Barkley for the season he's had. He was absolutely incredible. And I'm not just saying that because he's signed up for Villa. I'm actually saying that because he was actually probably one of the better English midfielders this year, along with Phil Foden. Now, I'm not saying he's the same level of Phil Foden, but when you're looking at seasons, Ross Barkley has had a very effective season. He was a star player, and everyone looked at him and said, what a player. There's so many players. Of
Well,
course, when you look.
he has got an embarrassment of riches, and I think
Well, I think when I look
uh,
at that team, I'm looking at that team, I'm looking at your midfield, it's so light. It's so light. There's no physicality whatsoever. And he's put Trent into midfield. Now,
mm,
will Trent end up being a midfielder? I don't know. But when you look at Southgate's credentials as a manager club level, all he's done is Middlesbrough and he's won nothing.
Well, it was highlighted. I like Mainu. I think he's a good player, but it was the physicality thing that you spotted there was highlighted on Friday night against Iceland, and yeah, he got pushed off the ball. He got kind of that experience shone through against him. But I think the difficulty is for me when you talked about playing players on form or picking players on form. Yes, he definitely should be doing that, but he's kind of gone and done that literally just before a tournament when he should have been doing that throughout the squad to find out who his best players are and who he should be
Yeah.
bringing in. Don't just do it like two weeks before the tournament and then you're trying to bed in new
Mm.
players and bring new players for. I know some of it's a bit injury related and stuff, but yeah, it just seems really strange to me, and it seems like some of the players are back to square one with trying to get to know each other, and there's a bit of a mishmash. Sam, welcome to the show.
I'm
Hello, how are
sorry,
you doing?
boys.
I
I'm
Better
was
late than never, Sam. Better late
you
than
know,
never.
better
I
late than
was
never, exactly.
I was watching that
Soccer aid.
soccer aid and I completely forgot the
Who
time.
won? Who won?
England won, but I tell you what, it was a load of shite.
Boo.
Well,
I was
I just said it was slightly more entertaining than the England game on Friday, to be honest.
no, it probably was. I think my only issue with it was you've got all of these footballers, like far too many ex-pros on the pitch, and they're only like passing to each other, and they're just taking pops from anywhere against poor Tony Bellew, who's got absolutely no chance of saving any of them. And I was just like, I was watching it, like trying to see any of these celebs get involved, and I was like, it's a waste of time. But I was saying, I'm like a heroin addict on methadone, just like these little bits until real football starts again. Like I'll watch
I
anything
know,
right now.
I know. Yeah, it's just trying to cling on to any football
Yeah,
until.
watching like
But yeah, but your
yeah.
thoughts on the England situation, Sam? I mean, I know I've just had a little rant there, but what's your thoughts on the situation?
I don't hate it. I think there are a couple of players who I'm a bit surprised are in, like Wharton over James Maddison. I thought that was a little bit strange. Although he seems like a really good player. Obviously, did a number on us in the last game of the season. Not that we were entirely all there. But
we were on the beach.
Yeah, we were on the beach.
We were on the beach.
What was left of our squad was on the beach. But
Yeah,
I think in general, this is maybe one of the first times you can say that Southgate's kind of like dropped a couple of the favourites in Maguire and Hendo. And I mean, look, the problem is with him and the way that he wants his team to play, it's very unlikely that we'll win. Not because we don't have the talent, but because he's a shite manager. So I'm expecting us to do well against the teams we should do well against, and I expect us to fall away at the latter stages against a good team who actually has some structure about how they play. But in terms of the personnel, I've got to be honest. I don't hate it. I can't judge him too harshly on who he's picked to go on the plane. But I think leaving James Maddison out was a bit strange.
What about
Just
what about
just on the Iceland game, lads, for yourselves, and I'm going to ask you. But after that Iceland game, are you confident now with this group? When you look at Slovenia, who've got Sesko, Serbia have got quite a few physical players, and Rich, you touched on physicality, and Iceland certainly had it. Denmark are a very good side. After that game, are you as excited with that group? Is that group a recipe for disaster?
No, the group will be a piece of piss. Like Iceland are a bit of a bogey team, and it's one of those experimental games where I think.
Is it really an experimental game when Harry Kane is starting?
Just because Harry Kane is starting doesn't mean. I mean, you had no Bellingham on the pitch. You had, obviously John Stones went off early doors, and you've got a team that's clearly not just trying not to get injured. Like I don't think we were going full pelt. I think we knew it was a friendly, and we were doing what we needed to do. I don't think the group concerns me, but I'm concerned if we come up against a top team. I think if we come up against like an Italy or a France or a Germany, yeah, I mean even Germany, like their players have had a decent season, a bit of a resurgence, although their national team's still not what it once was. But I think we'll win most of the games in that group, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, in answer to your question, Martin, I don't think we'll necessarily struggle too much in the group. I think people did, as is always on X, people go just from 0 to 100 in no time whatsoever. And all of a sudden, because we lost 1-0 to Iceland, it was like, oh, we're not going to win a game in the group stages. I think we'll get through the group fairly comfortably. My concern is the same as Sam's in terms of coming up against a top side, a side that makes proactive decisions as opposed to reactive decisions, because we know that's what Southgate is like. But I'm also a little bit concerned in the fact that when a team now can get 1-0 up against us or keep a really solid two banks of 4 against us, we seem to be really struggling to get anything through them, and I'm slightly
Where
concerned.
have I heard that before? Where have I heard that one before?
Yeah, I am slightly concerned of the fact that we haven't taken Grealish, because to me Foden flatters to deceive at the moment in an England shirt. And then when you've got and Bellingham's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but then there's certain, I think sometimes on the wide areas, bringing the Jack Grealish on is something different to, say, Gordon, or replacing him with Bowen, or vice versa, or Saka, or whatever. You've got basically pace and a cut inside, whereas with Grealish you've got something a little bit different, and that worries me in terms of breaking down a 2 banks of 4, particularly if we went 1-0 down.
I think just on that, like, I get it. Like, Grealish is obviously, we've banged the drum for him for years. I'm not going to all of a sudden turn around and say that he's not a brilliant, anything less than a brilliant player. But if you go on merit and you go on actually like the performances this season, I take Bowen and I take Gordon over Grealish.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to say is, you say Foden flatters to deceive in an England shirt. So you've got Foden, who won PFA Player of the Year. Quite deservedly. Obviously, you could put in an argument for Ollie Watkins, but Foden was sensational all season. You've got Cole Palmer, who was an absolute revelation. You've got Harry Kane, who scored 45 goals this season. Bellingham won the Champions League. If these players aren't firing all collectively, what's the common denominator there? It's Southgate. It's not.
Oh,
I was just about to say that. I was just about to point that. Okay, 100%, yeah, I was just about to point
but
that.
It's still, there's still an element of the players sometimes need to take responsibility on the pitch for themselves and do it themselves.
But the way they do that is by ignoring Southgate completely and just playing.
Do it then. Do it then.
Which when you're trying to get into a Euro squad, Rich, when he picks the team,
I know. But in the tournament, maybe they can do that.
And I don't mean to make comparisons here. When Sam just said, "Oh, let's just ignore the manager." Ireland done that against France in the qualifying stage of the World Cup when it was Trapattoni in charge. We were 1-0 down and we played unbelievable because we just completely ignored what he said. So maybe just ignoring Southgate is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm
Kevin Jeans agrees with me. Where's Foden when you need him? Gets a pass from the media all day long.
But he's not even playing where he normally plays. They're playing him in the middle, and it's not his position.
But yeah, I know. And then when he's played off on the left, I don't think we get the ball to him enough. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying that there's elements of. And look, we know the situation with England. There's sometimes square pegs in round holes. There's sometimes situations where players are trying to, I guess, do it themselves as opposed to, really working as a team. I totally get that. But I think when we hype up these players to say, Foden, this world class, this, and Kane, world class, that, and Bellingham, this and that, and okay, brilliant. But as it stands at the moment, we haven't done anything with them.
Just touching back on Grealish, thanks, Sam. Just touching back on Grealish. Lewis pointed this one out. Now, you could agree with me. Not taking Grealish is like when Glenn Hoddle didn't take Gaza to France '98. Is that a fair comparison to make? You are English fans now. I personally have no quarrels with this whatsoever, but I thought I'd ask you this question.
I think Gaza brought something else to England. I think he brought that sort of fear factor to opponents when they played England. If Gaza was on the pitch, they were always worried that he could, do something sensational. And he added something on that sense. I don't think Jack Grealish quite has the same aura or reputation in European football, especially even more so since he's joined City, because he's a bit of a bit part player. I don't think it's a bad comparison. I get what Lewis is saying. Because they're both Mavericks and they're both very highly skillful, but a little bit drinky, and there's a lot of parallels you can draw between Gaza and Jack Grealish, even in the way they play. But I don't. The question is, who do you drop for Grealish then? Like, if you
that's a good question. I probably I probably wouldn't have taken Ivan Toney.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Ivan Toney getting called up
Because I
considering he
think
hadn't played for such a
Bowen
large
can
chunk of the
maybe
season.
play in a forward position. Gordon's played in it before. If there's by any chance an injury to both Kane and to Watkins, so I wouldn't have taken Ivan Toney. He hasn't scored in something like 15 games. So if his argument was about form and players not necessarily being in top form, then how come Ivan Toney's gone? That's
Do
I
you
don't get
know
that.
what I reckon? I reckon if Kane's going to play every minute of every game if he can. If Kane gets injured, Ollie Watkins will start. If Kane's going to be subbed off towards the end of a game, I think he'll bring on Toney just in case it goes to penalties. Obviously, it depends on the situation, but I think.
I think that's a poor mentality, though, just to bring someone just for penalties. But you might
I mean, it's not just for penalties. He's still like I know that he's not had the best half of the season. Ivan Toney is still like an exceptionally good footballer. Like let's not beat around the bush. He's very good, and he can do a lot of things brilliantly. And
I don't think he warrants. I don't think his season has warranted a place in that England team.
I think he should have taken Solanke personally. So I'm on board with the
I thought you would have taken Solanke
because I believe in the kind of meritocracy. But I still think. I still get why he's picked him. And the thing is, fine, you take Toney and don't play him, but you take Grealish, even if it is just for a penalty, let's say. You don't plan on really playing either of them. But if it comes down to penalties, who would you rather have, Grealish or Toney? Yeah. I kind of get it, especially maybe he's got PTSD from losing to Italy on penalties last time. Maybe he's like,
I just think it's undeserved. I just think it's completely undeserved, especially when he's had an argument. And look, I'm not saying that Grealish deserves it on the back of his season this season. It's a debatable decision either way. But I just think it comes for a bit of hypocrisy when you've said like so and so hasn't been in the squad because their form hasn't been good enough. Like even Maddison. I mean, Maddison started off the season brilliant and then ended the season not very well. But Toney came in January, started off for a month brilliant, and then has been absolutely crap. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, he can say, oh well, if we get a penalty, then someone he can come on and take a penalty. But
can I make an argument there? Can I play devil's advocate? Like Grealish has had like a subpar season in the best team in the world. Ivan Toney's not really had it rocking at Brentford. Like he's not getting the same service. He's not playing with the same level.
He's the main man, though. He should be the one leading by example.
Yeah, you're right.
In the bookies, he is.
But he's
leading by example in the bookies.
I think it's splitting hairs. I think it's splitting hairs anyway. Like I said, I think he'd be playing a minimal part in it. I'm just saying, like, if you're asking me, I would have taken Grealish, and that's the player who I wouldn't have taken. Because I think Bowen and Gordon deserved it on the back of their seasons.
Would you have taken? Sorry. Would you have taken?
Can you pull up Stephen Van Leer's comment about Watkins' penalties? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might really remember this wrong. But did he not slip when he took that penalty against Lille?
Yeah, he did slip.
He did slip, and he missed it as well.
Yeah, I was there. He slipped, and I thought he missed it. My heart went.
He did slip, didn't he? Obviously, my mind remembers that.
He slipped against Everton as well last season when he took one, and it went in. But yeah,
do you know what? I've got a lot of time for Watkins, and I've already admitted that he's performed well above my expectations, but I still wouldn't put him on pens. If Dougie goes, you get someone else on pens. I'm not having Watkins on them.
Tielemans.
Do you disagree? Do you disagree? Am I wrong?
Tielemans on penalty.
No, I think I'd have him on him. I think he'd have to. I think he'd deserve the shot to be on him until he proves otherwise.
Here's another question for you, so lads. Would you have taken Marcus Rashford over Ivan Toney?
No chance.
What? Sorry, would I rather have Marcus Rashford than Ivan Toney in the England squad or at Villa?
Just the England squad.
Oh, I mean, it didn't really matter to clarify because I'd have Toney over Rashford for both. But
yeah.
Yeah, I think you cannot have Rashford with how poor he's been for so many, for so long, over Toney, who's at least sort of performed to a certain level. But I mean, again, Marcus Rashford has shown the ability.
He has provided
to
for England. If you look at some other nations, if we look at Lucas Podolski, for example, who has never exactly been a good club player, but when it comes to the national team, he's one of their best players. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Rashford is one of the best players for England, but when he puts on an England shirt, he generally does put in some good performances. At times, I'm not saying all the time, but he has put in some generally good performances for England. It's just because of the expectation at Man United.
I mean, you could make the same argument for Harry Maguire to keep him in.
Well, he would have been in, wouldn't he? Had he not been injured, he would have been in. There's no doubt about that.
I think all in all, like, it's weird because I had more expectations at the last tournament, at the World Cup, and the Euros before that. I had more expectation, but I think now seeing the way that Southgate sets up his teams, and I think again, I might be wrong, but I feel like we're just more like defensively weaker than we used to be. Because
we are definitely more defensively
we said
weaker.
that before you jumped on with the physicality.
I don't know which international teams in this tournament are really defensively strong. I'm sure Italy will be quite. They have a system that is difficult to break down, but I'm not sure how good Germany are defensively. I'm not sure how good Spain are defensively. I'm not sure how good France are defensively. So I don't know how much that will play a huge part.
I mean, you look at teams like Italy historically.
Yes, that's defensively. That's what I'm saying.
France have got, all the talent in the world at their disposal, and like even if you don't think they perform very well, they have every opportunity because they have the best defenders in the world.
Yeah.
Arguably, I think like every time, I'm sure you've already spoken about this, but every time Konsa's played for England,
this is the bit I was going to come to. So yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I just like the performance that he's had in the last two games. I've just been so happy for him because he's just looked so at home, and even that game against Brazil, like the way he handled Vinicius Jr. at right back, which isn't even his position. I know we lost that game, but Ezri Konsa looked absolutely brilliant, and then he looked brilliant again against Iceland, and very cool, calm on the ball. Like Ezri Konsa's got. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but he's got a bit of a problem with passing the ball backwards and sideways. Like he's going forward, and he's got that opportunity to just play it forward, and he very often doesn't do that. He either goes backwards or sideways.
So that's down to Southgate.
I think he's been doing it a lot for Villa as well, from being honest.
Yeah, I think sometimes he's a safe passer, isn't he, rather than a.
Because he's a centre back, and that's generally what he does. He'll play it to Pau Torres, and Pau Torres will make that pass.
Yeah,
I think he needs to add that to his game. But I think in general he's been absolutely brilliant, and I don't see any argument for him not starting. Like over Mark Gay.
And the weird thing is, Sam, is that everyone's talking about. You've rightly said, the weakness is potentially in England's defence. They've talked about Mark Gay. They're talking about Lewis Dunk. They talk about Harry Maguire not being in. They talk about John Stones not being fit. I haven't heard one pundit say, "Oh, you know what? Ezri Konsa's played really well the last 3 England games. Like he played really well when he came on the other night. He played really well against who was it we beat the other night 3-0? Bosnia. Played really well against Bosnia. He played really well against Brazil, as you said there. Really assured." No one's turned around and said, all they're saying, they loop him in with Gomez. They're like, Gomez and Konsa, they're like utility players, aren't they? So they might come on and maybe cover one of the positions. They're not saying, do you know what? Konsa's actually could be a really good option because he can cover the ground quick, he can tackle, he can pass, he can head. Like, surely he could be one of the breakthrough stars of this tournament.
I wish Ireland had this problem with you lot. Oh my god!
I think what was also interesting as well was when England did the announcement of the squad, and they did it like player by player. When they did Konsa and Watkins, they did
literally 1 second, wasn't it? It was literally a split second.
This kid had scribbled Konsa and Watkins on a piece of paper and shit, and they were like, "Yeah, all right, that's done. Let's move on." But I think the important thing is that. Despite no one else really talking about Konsa, it looks quite evident that Southgate rates him.
Yes.
And that's, I hate Southgate. I don't know if it's like in my DNA or what it is, but I just cannot stand his face.
It's not just you. It's not just you. I think it's the rest of England and the rest of the UK with Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales and Ireland being outside of the UK. We all love him.
He's up there with like Bruno Fernandes for the most punchable face in football. Like something about him.
He's getting clipped up.
I cannot stand him.
The worst thing is now he's got his own like clothing range that's like Marks and Spencer's these cream off-white shirts, and it's just like
he looks like a Disney villain with his short, sharp nose, and he's horrible, and I hate the way that he manages a football team. That being
Hashtag
said,
Southgate in. Hashtag Southgate in.
that being said, I'm very happy that he's kind of what it seems like for the first time really kind of dropped his favourites and started to pick people on merit. I like the fact that he's playing players from Crystal Palace and Villa and Brighton and Newcastle, and I think
how long has it taken him to do that?
No, you're absolutely right. He should have done it. He should have made Jack a bigger figure in the England team when he was playing well at Aston Villa. And he took him in the end, but he was scarcely used. So you have to give him credit for like understanding that meritocracy is a thing, not just over like a season when someone's displayed like a whole career of being good, you still pick them. But now you've got players like,
Ezri
being dropped, and Eze being, and how good was Eze as well? I think
maybe he could be your something different that Rich was probably on about the saying.
Maybe, I didn't think about him when I was talking about that, but yeah.
Oh, Eze's sensational, man.
Yeah,
like him or Elise, just one of them in this summer, and I'm happy. Just one. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just such a great class of player, and they conduct themselves really well. And I'm a massive fan. But I think we'll have to wait and see. My expectations have dropped just from history and previous tournaments, but I don't think there's any reason why England can't go and win this Euros. Like they're so good. We've got so much talent at our disposal, and it's kind of like Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp a while back. If we're shit defensively, if they score 4, we score 5.
Well, if we had a different manager, No, I'm with you. Look, and all this stuff, PSR, transfers, all that. England, we could go around in circles. So let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up in a second. So, Martin, I'll come to you from an outsider, neutral position. You're probably not asked. You're probably not bothered. But where do you see England finishing in this Euro 2024?
Given track record with Southgate, I'm going to go with the quarterfinals, and you're going to lose to France.
Is that potentially in the route? I did have a glance at the route to the final, but yeah,
I didn't even have a look at the route.
I think quarterfinals is. Yeah, I think quarterfinals isn't a bad shout.
I haven't looked at the route. I have looked at nothing. The only Euros I'm concerned with is the coins that has a €1 and a €2, €5 notes, €50 notes. The EU votes that's been going on. They're all the Euros I've been concerned about at this minute. But I firmly believe, given track record with England and Southgate at tournaments, I think it's a quarterfinal, and I can see us probably losing to France, or Portugal, or Belgium, a big team that know how to win games. And that's not to take it away from you. You know how to win games as well. But with Southgate, I think it's a quarterfinal for you.
Yeah. Get in the comments, people. Let me know your thoughts in the comments before I come through to Sam's opinion. I just want to shout out our show's supporters, Football Prizes. They have a fantastic signed shirt this time of Leon Bailey up for grabs. So do go to footballprizes.co.uk and search for the Leon Bailey competition. The closing date for it is Thursday, the 20th of June. So you've got a bit of time to get your ticket. Just visit the site, purchase your ticket, and you've got a chance to win that. There's also instant prizes as well available to win. An Ollie Watkins signed shirt again, and a Moussa Diaby shirt as well as part of the instant prizes. But the main prize is my favourite player at the moment, Mr. Leon Bailey, available for the signed shirt. So yeah, footballprizes.co.uk to purchase your ticket. Sam, your thoughts then? England in this competition. Where are you thinking?
I think we will sail through the group relatively comfortably. I think we will fall at whatever hurdle we meet a really top team. For example, if we get like a Portugal or like a Spain or like a Germany, like someone who's not really at the top of their game, then it's a 50-50 chance. But as soon as we meet up with the big boys, with the Frances and the like, or the Italys, the people who have got the experience, I think we're done. It also doesn't help that Harry Kane's confidence is in the absolute bin after yet another season of not winning a trophy, even though he's gone to Bayern Munich. So I will say, I reckon we'll get to like the semis.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna side with Martin and say quarterfinals. I think.
I don't know what the route is though. I don't know if
I've glanced at it, but it's obviously convoluted. It all depends on where one team finishes. There's always a team that either doesn't go through or loses their first game surprisingly and ends up going into the other half of the draw and all that, and it tends to go against England. But yeah, and I think that first game, Serbia, I'm quite concerned about that. I think they've got some good players, but
they just beat Sweden as well. They tore off to the new one, didn't they?
Yeah, it was 3-0 with.
That guy needs to retire, boys.
Yeah,
also needs to retire.
Yeah,
I was about to say, I wonder who was in goals for Sweden.
but I'm gonna say quarterfinals, and I think Konsa will be a really good player for England in this tournament. I think whether he starts the first game, I'm not too sure, but I think he'll definitely be utilised. I can't see Ollie Watkins playing too much, to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see about that. Hopefully now the pressure's off a little bit and his place is confirmed in that squad. He plays with a little bit more freedom and maybe gets a goal as well.
All I'll say is I hope we don't meet Iceland at any stage of this Euros because we'll get.
Thankfully, they're not in it, so we'll be all right.
Are they not? I thought they were in it.
No, I think that was just a warm-up game because they're not in it. I don't think we would play anyone who is in it. Yeah.
That's why all the mums are going to Iceland, Sam, because they're not in the tournament, so they don't have to worry about football.
Okay. Sorry, my bad. Well, I still hope we don't get them. They're not a surprise entry.
Yeah.
Like in the Royal Rumble when like a secret person comes out on 40th and it's Iceland.
Yeah.
Well, fair play.
Right. Great chat. Again, almost 400 people watching across YouTube and X, which is phenomenal stuff. So thank you everyone for your support. Follow us on X at Villa Park Pod and on all of our individual channels, at Marto Leonardo, Samwise 1071 at Southrich. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Help us on the road to 5K. We're going to be back on Tuesday for the Fans Forum where we'll talk all stuff, club shop, kit. When's this kit going to come out? And obviously transfers as well. So we'll get into that on the Fans Forum. And I'll be back with more transfer talk shows, I'm sure, across the week. Maybe we'll cover some England stuff as well as the Euros continues. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Boys, thank you for jumping on. Sam, thanks for jumping on, albeit just a little bit late.
Yeah, all right.
We'll see you back in the week. Thank you everyone for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.